Hi, I've been trying literally all day to put together a concise little video in response to, and I just listened to part of this woman's, what she had to say regarding her case. But last night I was putting together some dog food because I make my own dog food, and I was putting together some food for my Dutch Shepherd. And when I do stuff like that in the kitchen, I like to listen to some engaging conversation. And one of my favorites to listen to is Doug Hagman at hagmanpi.com, or I catch him on brighteon.com. Especially, I love it when him and Steve Quayle engage, and it's just wonderful. Um, and I had the blessing of meeting Doug Hagman back in, I think it was 2019 or 2020, when he came down to Akron for a conference held by Shatter the Darkness, which I used to, rest his dark, God rest his soul. I used to work with him. I was one of the original Core Team 1 members in the SIIU for Shatter the Darkness. You can look that up at shatterthedarkness.net. I keep going off on tangents of, trying to explain to, somebody who has never heard of these things before, to people in this video, and I keep getting this video too lengthy. But I met Russ. I had the blessing of meeting him in February of '98, and I started taking his classes a couple months later. And in 2004, I joined his church. When I moved back to Ohio, when he pastored Calvary Community Chapel at that time, and I became, involved in Shatter the Darkness and their mission trips. They call them REAP trips. And I did that, God, for years after that. And that's why I met a lot of really awesome people. And one of those was Doug Hagman, which I got his card back then, and I did reach out to him. I sent him an email. So, Doug, if you hear this, I'm Lynette, and I'm still waiting for a response to that email I sent you. Anyway, I know you're a busy guy. I'm just giving you a hard time. But last night, I caught this. It's called Special Report Status of State Sanctioned Kidnapping. Mother Provides Update. Of course, that, caught my ear. And I started listening, and Luke from Shatter Ops, which is, I guess, an offshoot of Shatter the Darkness after Pastor Russ and his lovely wife Shelley died a couple of years ago. They went out, some members went off and formed their own group. I think I met Luke once years ago, I think when we went on the REAP trip to Allentown, Pennsylvania. I'm not sure. Luke, if you catch this, I'm the one that had the white RAV4 with the bright green rims that my son painted. Anyway, God bless you for really, moving forward and everything that you're doing, particularly for this mother. But I want to first say, I couldn't finish. I listened to about 10 minutes. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to finish listening to it, and I see that there's a couple other previous reports. And she's got a website that I want to check out too, and I want to really dig into her case. But I stopped. I had to turn it off last night before she really got deeply involved in her case. Partly because I was just really overwhelmed with the idea that people, and I don't mean anything against Doug or Luke or this beautiful young mother especially, but it's bothersome to hear people talk about this stuff like it's new. And I get it, it's new to this mom. So that aside, anybody in ministry, anybody who claims to be the church, anybody investigating any aspect of anything going on in this system, When I say the system, I mean child services. Don't ever call them child protection services, because they don't protect anything except the paychecks for their agencies and their own fat asses. So child services, family court, juvenile court. That's what I mean when I say the system. The system, everything she might have to say, which, okay, since I didn't listen to it, I'm going to give a guess. And I'm not doing this to be pompous at all. I'm going to guess that her husband was abusing her children. She found out, asked for help, and now she doesn't get to see her children. Honey, that's how the system is designed to work. And I could pull up case after case after case to show you that that's how the system is. It is designed to work that way. And I'm not going to go off on the tangents that I was doing before and ended up being half-hour to an hour-long videos, because I want to keep this short as possible at this phase. Until we, as the church, or, in ministries, or investigators, I'm an investigator, until we get it through our thick skulls, one, that this stuff isn't new, and two, that this is the design of the system to function this way. Sure, you got your bad actors that utilize the system, or somebody that knows somebody says, hey, we need to go after that family's kids because, they're getting a little out of hand, or distract them from whatever agenda. But there's a lot of people that know that you can use the system for those purposes because that's how it was designed to work. It's like if I need a certain size socket and I go in my son's toolbox, I'm going to find the tool that is designed for the purpose that I need at that point in time. The system is a major toolbox. A lot of people will say that the child services systems in particular that needs reformed. No, it needs destroyed and done away with. Child abuse is a crime. Child neglect is a crime and should be treated as such. Social work was designed by God and given to the church. If you see a family that has a need, whether it's they need to learn how to take better care of their children, or daddy needs to learn how to control his temper, or whatever, the social services aspect of it belongs to the church. God gave her the responsibility to care for widows and orphans in the local communities. Why do you think we've got local churches instead of taking taking that long haul trip to the temple each year or a couple times a year? No, we've got the local church, not for these freaking country clubs that they've become, but to take care of the needs of the families in the community, not just people that come in the door. But the design of the system, child services, I've said this so many times before, it was designed originally, Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act, CAPTA, 1974, was signed into law in 75, was devised and spearheaded by Mondale and Hillary Clinton. Then that provided or developed the structure, the main structure of this wicked system whose only purpose is to do evil against families and children. And until we get that through our thick skulls, and the fact that later the Adoption and Safe Families Act just expanded it even broader to turn the system into a huge money-making wicked empire. And until we get these things through our thick skulls. Oh, and by the way, the Adoption Safe Families Act was spearheaded also by Hillary Clinton. Anyway, until we get that through our thick skulls, there's two main things. One, this is not new. I've been involved in advocacy since '95, but particularly with these aspects of the system in 2002. I was talking back then, 22 years ago, I was talking to people who were trying to expose this and trying to make changes in the system that had been doing this at that point for 20, 25 years. Wasn't new to them either. It was new to me. But by God's grace, I opened my eyes. I'm like, okay, this has been going on a long damn time. Fast forward, 2004, I was in touch with Dr. Dale Griffiths, God rest his soul. I wrote up a little report of all these aspects of my particular case, including the child services stuff, sent it to him, and he asked to meet with me. So in late summer, I think it was, in 2004, I drove out to Tiffin, Ohio to meet with him in his office, and he told me, he pulled his glasses down and told me, he says, I have a basket full of cases just like yours. And he was talking not only about the ritual abuse, not only about the child trafficking, not only about the cults and stuff, all that wacko stuff, but also about the child services agencies and family court. A basket full of cases just like yours. That was 20 years ago. And thank God I had that opportunity to meet with him and have regular contact with him. He helped me in ways that I don't think he even realized before he passed. But if we can come to grips with the fact that this is not new, one, we can learn from people like myself that have been doing this, trying to, research, investigation, and exposing this stuff, trying to, for so long. Two, we can take that knowledge and do something different. There seems to be this cycle of, you hear about all these, child services horror stories and stuff, and then all of a sudden that dies down. I remember in 2009, I think it was, I was invited with Roz McAllister. I was working with Ohio Family Rights, and I was invited to a big family rights rally that we had in D.C. The only time I've been to D.C. And right in front of the White House on the lawn there, we had our rally, and we got to speak to a pretty decent crowd. But then it just kind of fizzled out. And then when, at the death of Senator Nancy Schaefer and her husband, which is an entirely different topic, I do not believe that it was a murder-suicide. But anyway, it really fizzled out, and then there's this cycle where it starts coming back round. And when it starts, when the cycle resurges, everybody's talking about it like it's new. It's not. And I know I'm being so probably ad nauseum redundant on this, but it's the seemingly little point that'll really help this movement to move forward this time, because it's not just about her and her case and her children. It's not just about me and my kids. They're adults now, but the pain's still there. It's about the fact that this is still being done. And I want to try to cut this as short as possible this time. And I want to say, her name's Afia. I want to tell you, I praise God for your courage. I've looked briefly at your website, and I will dig into it a little bit deeper. But I'm going to tell you something that there was nobody to tell me when I was in your shoes. I know I know what it's like to try to sleep at night, knowing that your kids are with an abuser, and knowing what horrors they're enduring. I know what it's like to be on my face in a sloppy mess, in tears and prayer before God, day and night, crying out for Him to send someone to help you rescue your children. Nobody helped me. And praise God, I have a relationship with at least my son right now. And I'll get into all that another time. But I wanted to tell you that God picks us when we don't see what He sees. And why He chooses our children, I don't really know. But I know that He's good and that all of His purposes are right and just. And on that note, I want to tell the church and anybody professing to do ministry, wake up. If we don't help her and her children and do something to stop the systematic destruction of families and the state-sanctioned, federal-sanctioned kidnapping and trafficking of our children, if we don't wake up and realize that the system was designed, child services, family courts, juvenile courts, the design of the system is to reorganize families and traffic children for many nefarious purposes. And a lot of people make a lot of money, your tax dollars, doing it. So God bless you, Afia, for speaking out. If I can be of any assistance, you can check me out here at my website. This is one of my websites, unkpi.net. I've also got a pupstop.com, and you can contact me through either one of them. And here gives you a little bit more background on who I am, and it's not everything, but it's a lot of main chunks. I don't have all the answers, but I know what it's like to be you. And I'm not afraid to be your friend. There was a lot of people that shunned me and stayed away from me because I think the one guy told me that being around me reminded him that it could just as easily have been his kids that were taken. I said, everybody's got their self-centered excuses, but you won't find that selfishness in me by God's grace alone. And Doug Hagman, I know he is an extremely selfless person. That's why he runs himself ragged doing all this stuff. I briefly met Luke years ago, and all I remember about him is that he's got a heart this big. I will, Luke, if I can be a help to help you understand and get ahead of the game, how to better help her and fight this system, please reach out to me. I know Tom Dunn has worked with you guys before. I love that guy. I haven't talked to him for a while, but I watch his program pretty regularly on YouTube. But folks, let's stop these cycles of burying it, then it happens, and then it's new and everything. Oh, look what's happening, and then it goes hush for a while again. Let's not let it go hush. God brings things to our attention because he expects us to respond. Like Ezekiel, when God made the hole in the wall of the temple and showed him what the wicked were doing there. He expected Ezekiel to respond, and respond he did. We read about it even today. So, what's your response going to be to this beautiful young mother and to opening your eyes to the wicked design of the system? Know where to find me. God bless you all, and thank you for bearing with me here.